keep up suspense. Look for the video soon. Yeah. Carol calls them time wasters. P Lady is swerving to the beat of her peeing. Nice. I didn't notice that. A peeing rhythm. Uncle Mark says, I have to work tonight. So bye for now. I'll pick up your conversation tomorrow with this upload. All right. Thanks for stopping in, brother. Uncle Mark. All right. So let's get started. So I took a few notes. Hold on. Because this won't take too long. I don't want to spend too much time. So this is the backside of my notes. Right? I take horrible notes. But I take them, right? So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, it's the front side. Let me see if I can make sense of it. Like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a bit of a history buff. And among other things, I have a lot of hobbies. But, from the time I was in school, and my father was a private investigator, and he taught me some stuff. And me and Binks are ready for bed. Wait, do we get a pick? Pick. Oh, wait, there he goes. Wait. Oh, let's see. Where is he? Hold on. Oh, I can't see it. Oh my goodness. Wait. Look at those eyes. Hold on. Can I rewind it? Make it stop. Hold on. You guys ready? Stop it, Arch. Stop moving. So I'm not a teacher or anything, and I'm not a politician, but, to give you a little bit of an idea of what might be happening, and again, I'm postulating, some of the stuff is actual factual. It's not a matter of my opinion. It's the stuff that they don't teach you in school when we all went to school. Because I have, my daughter is 25, but I have some younger friends at a few different ages. And I've asked them, did they ever teach you about the robber barons? They're like, what's a robber baron? I said, do you know anything about Carnegie or Rockefeller? No, they didn't teach. They don't teach, even when I went to school, I had some really good teachers. Really good teachers. And friends that were really good teachers as well. But I had a lot of really good teachers. I had some bad ones too. And today, there was some things that some of my teachers said that they would get fired for today, for sure. Or certainly a few years ago. But I think a lot of this stuff isn't something that is required to be taught. So, in particular for Americans to be taught about our Constitution, about where America and the United States and all of that. But they really don't get into and I don't want to get too into the weeds either. So, but I do have to go just so far. So I'll do it in two parts. So if you kind of want to know why we're in the situation we're in, and you may notice some of the stuff that's going on, the fighting that's been going on for the past, I don't know, what is it now, 8 years, something like that? People protesting in the streets. Everybody seems to have a name. And then you have the conventional Democrat, Republican, and the left and the right, and the liberal and conservative, and who's a fascist and who's a Marxist, and really what is the feds doing? What is a Fed? What is the federal government versus a regular government or a constitutional government? And then you hear some of them going, Trump is going to destroy our democracy, and other people say we don't have a democracy, we have a constitutional republic. Well, let me unpack a little bit of that for us. So I'll do it in two parts. Possibly what might be going on, which I'm speculating more on, and then the first part is a little bit more a definition of terms. So you have to start off with asking the question is, who are we as the American public? What are we considered to be right now? Some people say, well, we're people, we're citizens of the United States, we are this or that, all of which is true, but what does it really mean? So I want to go through that real quick. You would be surprised to when you understand what your standing is are you a voter, as a voter bloc, regardless of what side you're on or what you call yourself? What are you seen as legally when the United States government looks at you? And what is the United States government? So we had a constitutional republic. That's what we were all taught that was created back in the day, right? It's why we fought the Revolutionary War. Unfortunately, that did not ever really fully take hold. and it was infiltrated almost immediately. And it was infiltrated by the King of England, and also all of the banksters, essentially, that started pouring in the mid to late 1700s right away. And every time any president ever tried to change that, they either were out of office or were killed. So we have a fractionated sort of weird government that is a cross between three things. Part of that is we have this constitutional republic concept and idea that was spelled out by our founding fathers. And that is extremely specific in what it can do and what it can't do and how it sees us. If the powers that be currently and even back then that took over ever tried to completely remove that, there would have been another civil war, and they know that. And since we all still have our guns, they can't do it as a complete takeover right away. They can't just move troops in. They tried near the War of 1812. The British had tried again. It doesn't work. However, every time we've been in a war, what winds up happening is we run out of money, and then we overspend, and then we go broke. And the solution, unfortunate solution to that, was to turn to the bankers, which are private entities from outside of this country, to give us the money to keep our government running. And the trade was that we would be put under a corporate heading. Or I like to think of it as like the corporate tyranny, really, is what it is. So the United States became a corporation, and it went bankrupt twice. So if you want dates and all of that, you can do your homework. I'm not all about dates and specifics. I'm more of a concept person. It's probably why I didn't always get, 100s on all of my tests, right? Because I would leave that out. Like, I don't know. Who cares when Lincoln died? I can go look it up. What do I got to remember that, right? So we have corporations. So how does the corporation work? Well, that's a commercial code. It's UCC. And for anybody that knows what UCC is, I worked for myself most of my life. So we all kind of operate that way, but I had to operate under UCC. And when you operate directly under UCC, you are a corporation, and you can pick. You can do a DBA. So we're all born as citizens of the United States, which is a fake entity. It's not America. It's the United States, and you're a citizen. And a citizen, you were born as a person. And I've talked about this before. A person is a corporate entity. It's an all-caps straw man is what it is. You, as a man or a woman, not a human being, all right? As a man or a woman, you were born as a child, and if you just want to look at that entity as a man or woman, men and women are free. But if you become a citizen or anything else, you now operate under different guidelines. So without the support of the Constitution and being a constitutional republic, which we're not free. We've not been free. We don't even know what that means or what it looks like. Because you're a citizen, I'm a citizen. You have a birth certificate. So your mother gave you up to the state, and your father witnessed it, and then you got a number, and that number was backed by a Sesquivet account, which at the time, around where we are, is just probably $1 million account, which was traded on the stock market. And if maybe you survive long enough, they made a fortune on us. If you survive long enough, you might get your only entitlement, which would be your retirement and Social Security money. You're not free. You're owned. So if you were born free, you would not have any of that, but you would have all of the rights of an American national. We are not. When have you ever heard that you're an American national? You're not. Because America as its own entity doesn't exist. It's a corporate entity run out of the District of Columbia, which is not part of the United States. It's just like the City of London, which is not part of London or part of the UK. It's its own entity. It's where all of the banking went on, all of the numbers and all of the big one percenters. And it's like the Vatican, which happens to be in Rome, but it is its own state. It's its own country. And it's not even the smallest one. I think there's one smaller than that. So these three entities control the world. It's not anyone else. And you might say, well, it's these one percenters or these elites. Well, the elites are part of it. There are others. There are other, I know some of their names of the families that it's not just the Rothschilds. There's many of families that actually rule the world, and they have almost forever. But they're just in our way, right? So you go back to who we are. So a person is a straw man. It's a corporate entity. So when I did DBA and worked all these years, because I operated under UCC code and not as working for a corporation, I am the corporation. So I played that game. And I said, all right, I'll take it on. I'll take that responsibility on. I am the corporation, and therefore I work under UCC code, and therefore I'm entitled to whatever freedoms and laws and rights that you, the federal government, which is not the American government, it is a federal, which is a corporate entity, that you and the state, which is incorporated, and the town here is incorporated, you guys owe me. So I have privileges. So I exercised those privileges. As a result, I could do everything I did when I walked out of my house or I had something delivered or whatever I did was all itemized and deducted. And therefore, I lived in a world where I didn't really pay any taxes because I don't have to. Because I'm playing your game. I'm a citizen of the corporation, a citizen of the corporation, a citizen of the U.S. corporation. And it's important to understand that, because if you're just a worker bee and you show up, even if you have a really good job, I mean, hopefully you make a lot of money, because they're going to nail your ass for almost 50% on taxes. Because you're a person, which is a corporation, all caps, like I said, straw person. You're not a human being, because according to Black's law, a human being is a monster, and I'll get to that, which is what we see running around our neighborhoods all across the United States, causing problems. Those are the monsters. In general, the citizen is a monster and a person, and it goes deeper than that. So a citizen is, I can put it in a few terms, like mostly religious terms. We are the great unwashed. We are the unwashed, the goyim, the infidel, and the Gentile. Okay? We have not labeled ourselves or claimed our status or standing within society beyond that. So worker bees, even if you have a good job, and by the way, this is true even now, and this is true even back then, because to a large degree, this is how the elites have always done it. And our country was set up by elites, but they gave us an advantage, which is not being utilized. Let me see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Brett says, when I was in junior high, our history teacher, Mr. Crosby, was really big into current events. Bloodnose goes, good discussion. We are too involved in foreign politics. Yup. We have gone far from defense of the Department of War, and I'll get to that. That'll be second part. And Walker says, or AZ Dipro, he goes, according to the Constitution, we the people own the government, and it can abolish it if it becomes tyrannical. That's true, okay? Regardless of what we are considered to be, that's true. And Brett goes, in Laymen's terms, welcome to the machine or welcome to the occupation. Yeah, exactly. So even under the Constitution, the way it was set up, we're still considered to be the goyim and the Gentile and the infidel, because even under that, right, you still have to raise your entity, and we'll consider it as an entity, above, like the regular people. And if you did, and one of the easiest ways to do that, even today, and this is something that's also happening under Trump, because this goes beyond him. There actually are people that are trying to get us back to that. So one of the ways today you can elevate your standing is you join the military, because you need a sponsor. Regardless of who the sponsor is, somebody higher than we has to look at us and recognize us, and then in some official manner, okay, you are then sponsored, and then you elevate your position. So in the world of universal, commerce, you could say a university, whatever degree, will help you to do that. Yes, because because the state has to recognize it, regardless of the teachers or what degree you get. That's one way, because in that way, you are be able to market yourself as, let's say, a doctor or a PhD, and somebody in some standing higher than you, the student, which is legalized by the state, which is a whole nother entity into itself, can then look at you and say, all right, this person passes muster. It can happen without all the rigmarole of degrees and what have you, but that's just an example of it. When you go into the military, the federal government, through Congress, recognizes you, but the way it was supposed to be was America, the nation, was supposed to recognize you. There's a difference between the federal government, the state, and the nation. And that's where we're missing today. That's what's been wrong with our government forever. And like I said, every time, like Kennedy tried to change it back in the 60s, and he talked about it, and they killed him. Because a nation state is different than what we are right now, because we're a corporation. That's why we're all around the world in all of these wars. Because, believe it or not, we're still owned by the crown. We've been owned by that crown for a very long time. So the crown in the UK essentially has owned us. It's owned our country, just as it owns Canada. And Canada thinks it's free, but it isn't really free, because it's owned by not only the corporations that are associated with Canada, with the UK. I mean, think of it. If you're the king, think of it this way. You're the king. Go back in time a little bit. The king has this huge navy, essentially fights with us because it fights with lots of countries, has this navy, it can project force. And the king considers all that he surveys and that his navy surveys is owned by him. It's his inventory. He can sell it, he can trade it, and he wants his piece. And anybody that acts on behalf of the king gets a cut. All right? So one of the first things that you do in an occupation of anything is you grab a beachhead, you put a certain number of forces onto that beachhead, and that's accepted by rules of law. There have always been rules of law and order. And then you put a post office down. And as soon as you know that post office and the postmaster general has huge power if he should need to use it, because he's the first thing that gets put down, because without trade, UCC code, right? Without trade, you're dead in the water. How are you gonna feed yourself? I mean, really, what it's all about is trade. What everything about in this world is about trade, because without trade, what are you going to do? I mean, we live in a world right now, the world that I live in. Everything has to be trade. I don't have enough room to have cattle. I don't have enough room to grow all the food I need. I can't make fuel. I can't make all the electricity I need. Right? So everything is trade. So this UCC thing becomes important. So how do you institute UCC? Well, it's the British Maritime Law, which became paramount and foremost throughout the world. Everybody, anywhere, unless you're in Borneo somewhere, and you don't trade with anybody, you eat bugs, okay, for every day. And you kill these rodents that run around. Everything is essentially orchestrated by a British maritime court. And when you go to court in this country, that court is up on a big platform. You have to walk up the steps to every court. It's on a big platform because it's in dry dock. It's a ship or a vessel in dry dock. And the only people that are recognized are the court officers, which includes the lawyer. And how does the lawyer get his standing? He has to pass the bar, which is a Watergate, another British term, maritime term. And where is that? Well, the bar is in England. It's not here. It's not our law. So when we set up the Constitution, there was only 4 divisions of government that handled the law. That's land, air, water. This is common law. It's the law of the Bible. It's the law of Moses. But to do the commerce and the trade, everything else came in. And that's where we began to lose our rights. Because now we don't have rights as a nation state. We have rights as a corporate state. And that's very, very different. And the people that the federal government are the CEOs and the board of directors. They're not what you think they are. And that's why nothing ever gets done, because it doesn't serve the corporation. If it doesn't serve the corporation, they can't do it. They're not authorized to do it. Their primary job, not originally, but now, their primary responsibility is that of, like, if you become a manager at a company, right? And that company trusts you and you do a good job, and then they raise you up. Well, you're responsible to everything in that company. And here's the other thing, too, why you have no rights. So let's say you're working on an engineering team and of any kind, medical, physical, whatever, you're making planes, whatever is a widget, and you design something that's just amazing. You don't own that because you have no right to own it. You gave up that right when you got hired and took that job and made that agreement with the corporation that you're working for. And that's why we have no rights. And all of these rights that we've been trying to get over all these years, we already had them. But once the corporation got, turned on and is over us, now you have to fight for them again because you're fighting with a corporation. The way the country was set up originally was that God gave you these rights. All rights as a man or a woman. That's why the left, you say the far left, right? These are the communists. That's why they always try to attack the concept of man and woman with whatever they can. It's the same thing with all the Satanist religions. They do the same thing to undermine the rights of a man or a woman. Stop using person, stop using human, because human is a rabid monster. So those rights were given to us, every man, woman, and child, initially when we formed the Constitution and formed the original national American. So it's the United States for America, not the United States of America. That was all changed. It came from God because only God resides above man. Man cannot make decisions for what rights you and I have. All of the laws that God gave us supersede any legality. That's different. Legality that man creates to lord over man. And it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not, because the concept was, because remember now, some of our founding fathers were, they were not real. Some of them weren't religious, some different religions to different degrees. And what they realized was that you want to get man out of it. You want to get man out of the way. You want to get the corporation out of the way. And the way to do that was to say that there is a higher entity because it cannot ever be challenged. And that if the government ever goes wild on us, we can try, like Rob said, we can try to go back and then take it back. And that's kind of what we're coming to right now. But most people are forming up along division lines of left or right or whatever. They really don't know what their actual rights are and how they're behaving and what they're considered to be. And the more they split themselves up into gay or LGBTQ, or the more they lose and the worse they actually look in the eyes of the law and the corporation that's evaluating them. Now they become, well, what the communists say is they become useful idiots. And they're some of the first people, ask Mao. All right, Mao Zedong wrote a book on it, and so did Lenin, and so did everybody else that were communists. And they're the first people to go. They're the first people to be put under the gun, which is what you're seeing right now. They're the first people to commit all the violence. And then later on, when, like Lenin said, you tell them whatever you want to gain power. And then once you gain power, if they give you trouble, you just shoot them. You line them up and you get rid of them. And Mao basically did the same thing because you can't trust them. And if they find out that they were used for this, they're the worst opponents of the government that now is established of anybody because they're impassioned and they're crazy, right? And now they're really mad. So they're the first to go. So it's important really to understand this because they're not on anyone's side, right? They're really floundering as humans or the wild monster in within the wild. So I want to get to a couple other things. Let me just check and see what you're doing. Let's see, Michael. Hey, Mike, Big Mike! Oh, more cat pics. Oh, look, wait. Let me see what Big Mike said. Oh, yeah, she's just so cute. What's this bag? Where'd this bag come from? There's some new item on the floor I haven't seen before. She's so pretty. She's such a cutie. She was wild. I had to get her to calm down. She doesn't make any noise, really. She can cry, and she kind of meows, but it just doesn't really come out. It just doesn't happen. But when we gave her the flea medicine and she was freaking out, she was screaming. But normally you don't hear anything from her. Let's see what Big Mike says. Mike goes, facts. So, again, it's not to piss anybody off. So I just want to go through it real quick. I want to see what you guys are saying. So it's really about like perspective and who we really are and how we're seen from the corporate entity. So it is really nice. You can take advantage of the UCC laws. You have to because those are legal things. And, well, they carry weight, right? You don't want to go astray. Now, the IRS and stuff like that, that should be abolished because it was only supposed to be used, right, for wartime. And it really, I mean, because they keep getting us into wars, they keep carrying over these supposed laws and rules and whatever restrictions because they have us in perpetual war. So we need to stop that. And that's something that people are going to have to learn and understand who they are. Being a citizen is not what you want because it's like being a citizen. I was trying to get through, it took me like, I don't know, like 5 months to get health care from my state. I used to fill out the form in a particular way for a number of years. And this year, the form didn't work because they've changed the rules. But none of the people that work for the corporation of the state of New York knew that. They didn't understand it. And every time I called them for advice, they gave me advice, which none worked. 5 months go by, I'm paying for prescriptions, I have a deadly disease, nobody gives a fuck. They have no power. And finally, the last person I talked to, one of the last people, one guy was really good, but his advice did not work. This one lady, I said, can I speak to the department and with the people that determine the outcome of, their investigation to who gets, health care or not? No, you cannot. I can't give you that number. I'm like, well, none of you have been able to tell me what I'm doing right or wrong. You look over my stuff. Some of you don't. Some of you pretend to. Some of you have great advice. None of it works. Obviously, you don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you that. Can I speak to the people that make these? Well, they send you information on. No, it's ambiguous. It's AI generated. It's standard bureaucratic procedure, which is another problem we have. We have bureaucracy instead of government. So finally, my ex-wife said to me, well, why don't you call Fidelis? Because that's who everybody takes. There's actually a new building right around here where they handle it. But I called them, and I got a very nice lady. Smart. Well, she was able to get in touch with the department in the state that handles this and got a very nice woman who was very knowledgeable. And what she explained to me is that she said, John, you could have put that on an effing napkin. If you just put what I'm telling you to put, we've actually seen that. And we give you insurance. And I went, no shit. And she's like, first I was annoyed. And she's like, okay. She wasn't going to give me any heed. And then I realized you got to calm down. You got to, be nice, right? So she explained to me it's really, really simple. And my daughter and I went and did that right away, sent it right up, uploaded it. That was a Friday. They don't generally work on weekends. By Monday afternoon, I had an approval of yes. And the Fidelis lady was going, I was very thankful to all of them because you're the first people that knew what you were doing. It's the bureaucracy. And that's the problem, but it's also the solution because that's what we have to work with and that's what we have to work through. Regardless of whether it was a liberal, because a liberal is a different thing than a leftist. Just like a right-wing person or a conservative is a very different person, kind of entity than a radical right? When you call people the wrong names, not only is it insulting, but it just confuses things. We don't use the language properly. I don't think we were taught. There's a lot of words in the English language. And from what I understand, what foreigners say, it's been said that it's the hardest language probably in the world to really master. But I've seen the statistics. The average American person is parliterate. They're barely literate. They don't know what they're saying, and they say things that they've heard and they repeat it. They don't have a big enough vocabulary. And even though they have the most important thesaurus and dictionary and encyclopedia literally ever invented within their fingertips, they don't use it. And we get ourselves into trouble because of this. And it matters what you say. It matters what you know. I just wanted to see a few things here. Let me catch up on you guys. Let's see. Yes, taxes are unconstitutional. Yeah, welcome to the occupation, right? You've hit statute by filing your income taxes each year. He goes, Robert goes, no, you don't. That's not how you elevate your stature, right? That's not what stature means. And he goes, but taxes are unconstitutional. Each and every state has its own bar. But where does the bar come from? Where is it really go back to? That's what's important. It doesn't matter. Every state is compromised. Every state does not fall under the Union of America. Every state falls under the Union, essentially, of the Union Jack. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you go and look into this further, you're going to be shocked to find out that that is the case, that we were sold out long ago. And being a corporate entity instead of a constitutional government is really where this comes from. Actually, the Declaration of Independence. We need to get back to enforcing the Constitution and not allow any citizen to claim special consideration based on elected standing. I don't know what that means, but that's partially correct. You think English is bad, try Hebrew, right? Yeah, but Hebrew is numerical too, so you have an advantage there, right? Because a lot of these people are into gematria and shit too. So Hebrew has got a lot of, it's hard to do. He goes, everybody goes, you need to help out others now that you found out how to navigate the insurance market. Yeah, but I can't really help people out with, like, you're not allowed to do that. I think you have to be registered and stuff. You can't give advice on that, you know? He goes, for that matter, I know Japanese, right? Okay, now that you're right about English naval law, but the various variations are each bar. So, essentially, that's the first part. The way out of it is, let me see here. So, veterans are essentially the first ones that get elevated, but they're elevated not so much under the federal government, because again, what the federal government is, they are actually part of the nation itself. I don't really want to use the word nation state because it gets confused. They are actually more part of because nationalization as it stands right now. So, all right, let me back up a little. So why are these so-called illegals coming from predominantly South America, but they're coming from other places? Why are they able to get so-called free services? And as even Kamala had mentioned, right? She had made a comment about special considerations, whatever. Well, why are they able to do that? And we have to pay for that. Why do they seem to have more rights? That's because they do. And I hate to break it to everybody, but under the current laws, it's not constitutional. And if somebody says it's not constitutional, it isn't constitutional. But again, we're run by a legal system that's based on commerce by a federal entity that is not a national entity operating under constitutional law. So the current law, as it is now, is that you can get nationalization. You can be a foreign national, and many of them are elevated in status or statute or standing to the level of foreign national. That's why we have so many foreign nationals coming over from other countries that go to college and they get free ride because they have more rights than the average citizen. That's why I want to be careful with using the word citizen, because a citizen is a lower ranking entity, which is part of the person, part of the human. It's not the man or woman. It's part of this corporate, non-constitutional entity that has taken over our government. Full stop. That's the fucked up part that's hard for people to get their head around. So a foreign national We're all foreign to this land. I don't care whether you're born here or not. A national, an American national, not a United States of an America, but an American national is what you want to be. And you can only really be that under this government, which has been running since the 1800s or whatever. If somebody in higher standing than you within the government, and what's the word? They have to, the words matter, so I'm trying to get the word, because I had to take terrible notes, because I don't really plan on doing this. So you need somebody to sponsor you. It could be a thing, a person, or an entity within the legal constructs currently. And if they sponsor you, they make it so. And now you are a foreign national. And foreign nationals enjoy greater rights and access to services that you and I don't, because we are not foreign nationals of America. We're talking about America, constitutional. They set this up in such an effing messed up way. And that's why people are fighting over it, because they don't understand that you that pay your taxes, that were born here, that you have this Social Security, you're sold out. You're sold out to the straw man of the king in maritime law. Your government is not what you think it is. It's very different. And so what I'm really submitting to you is that I don't care whether you believe me or not, go do your homework. You have to pull each thread. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. How do we get back to that? You have to use the military, because our current legal system is UCC. It's all federalized, and it doesn't serve us. Period. Full stop. It serves itself under UCC, under maritime. It's for trade. It's for commerce. It was supposed to be a way of dispute, a fancy way of disputing. You stole my effing chickens. What do I get back for it? Now, honestly, originally when they set this up under the Constitution, we were supposed to get together in a room, a whole bunch of us, and argue it out and make it good that day. Not put it off in long-term things that go on and on and on for years. That never works. That's bureaucracy. That never works. So in this world, what do you do about it? I don't know. You need the military to change it, because only the I actually have the documentation on my desktop. Since 2014 to now 2015, the Congress has continuously passed and updated the codes for I forget which article it is, but it covers modern warfare under fifth generation warfare and how to go about doing it here in this country and in other countries. What is the architecture and framework of it? And that's both houses. That's left and right. And so what Trump is doing is completely legal. Regardless of what they tell you, they passed the laws that allow him to do it. He's operating under the current law. And that's the part that I think a lot of people are going to be very angry with, because they're not going to understand what that really means. And I'm not here to make you understand. I'm here to just simply submit that these are the situations we're in. This is what we find them in. And the only way you're going to be able to get back to the original Constitution, it's not martial law. You don't need to suspend habeas corpus, but you do need military action to do it. And that was why they pulled Hegseth and others. They pulled 800 of the top generals back to Quantico for an ass reaming and a firing. And they had to re-swear their oath, but not to the federal part of the government. It's to the constitutional government. So I think Rob wants to be on the channel. Rob, you with all that you're writing, I can't read it all. What do you see? Each foreign nationals are legal. Yeah, that's what I just said. Like 249 years. You're missing a point. I'm not missing any point. I can't cover everything. Under our Constitution, you don't need to be a citizen to enjoy its protect. But no, you're missing the point. You don't have a Constitution to protect you. That's the point you're missing. You don't have a Constitution to protect you because it will not be enforced. It hasn't been enforced. What's enforcing laws is a federal government that is not constitutional. It's UCC maritime law. I'm going to close with that, and I'm going to get off because how long have we been here? Let's see. And my voice is starting to crack. An hour and 47, so it's perfect. Anyway, I'm glad to see you guys. Yeah, I'm done for today. I can't talk anymore. Give you coffee, right? Something. I can't have honey right now. It's too late. Something to toy with. Something to look into. You don't have to believe me. I don't really care. But it's not left and right. It's not. It's worse. Or it might be okay. I mean, if you like living, like I said, I found ways to enjoy it. But then, you know, when the shit really hits the fan, I don't have any protection like everybody else, right? I'm considered the goyim, you know, the infidel, whatever. So it just, I have this, like, when I got a secret clearance for a time, I was a little higher up, but I don't have that anymore. That's something, again, that doesn't, you're talking about getting to a point where you're elevated enough to where that standing is there. And then you can operate in this kind of world. And you see that some of them are completely impervious to any kind of real, you know, like they commit crimes that they get off either scot-free or they a little bit of time. I mean, when you get to that, whether you're corrupt or not, when you get to that point, okay, that's kind of the point I'm making, that even under UCC, you're impervious. You know, unless you say stuff that really pisses people off, and then they, you know, and we never see you again. Like me, I'm going to see you guys next week. I'll see you guys later. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Rob, and everybody else for chipping in and chiming in, and just a good little chat. And again, I don't want to get anybody mad or anything like that. It's not what I'm here for. End stream.